Hi guys, welcome back to exmolex. Today is another day of comparing the Mormon Church to the BITE model of authoritarian control. If you're unfamiliar with the BITE model, BITE stands for behavior control, information control, thought control, and emotional control. Personally, I really like the BITE model as a good way to determine whether or not a group is a destructive cult. If you want more information on the BITE model and how it works, I will leave links for that in the description. In this series, I'm going point by point on the BITE model, comparing it to the LDS Church to help us determine if it's a cult. This video will be added to that growing playlist, so check out those videos if you haven't already, and let's jump on in. Today we'll be looking at a point under emotional control, the E in BITE model. Promote feelings of guilt or unworthiness. Some of the examples the BITE model gives are identity guilt, not living up to your potential, your family is deficient, your past is suspect, your affiliations are unwise, your thoughts, feelings, actions are irrelevant or selfish, social guilt, and historical guilt. Now, as somebody who was a member of the Mormon Church for 25 years, I personally felt a lot of shame, guilt, and unworthiness. First, I want to share with you several quotes from a pamphlet called For the Strength of Youth that was this little pamphlet that was distributed to all youth of the church between ages 12 and 18. These are just a few examples of the messages that I and other youth in the church heard growing up that I feel contributed to my feelings of guilt and shame. Never lower your dress standards for any occasion. Doing so sends the message that you are using your body to get attention and approval, and that modesty is important only when it is convenient. Keep in mind that Mormonism's modesty standards are very strict, so even wearing a skirt or a dress that goes 3 or 4 inches above your knee would be considered immodest, and that you're just using your clothing to get attention. Do not disfigure yourself with tattoos or body piercings. Unworthy music may seem harmless, but it can have evil effects on your mind and spirit. And that is why for a decade, I was editing swear words out of songs so that I could still listen to them. Foul language harms your spirit and degrades you. Your attitude is important in paying tithing. Pay it because you love the Lord and have faith in Him. Pay it willingly and with a faithful heart. Pay it first, even when you think you don't have enough money to meet your other needs. Doing so will help you overcome selfishness and be more receptive to the Spirit. They even shamed us into paying tithing. So those are just a few of the messages that we heard growing up that I feel like contributed to the overall feeling of unworthiness. Also, I have to point out that within the Mormon Church, worthy and unworthy are huge themes. You're either worthy to get baptized or you're not. Worthy to enter the temple or you're not. Worthy to serve a mission or not. Worthy to go to the celestial kingdom or not. It was one of the most used descriptive words by the leaders when they were like sorting us into good or bad people, basically. If you go through the church's website, if you look through the talks, if you look at the temple recommend interview questions, everything revolves around being worthy or unworthy. And this point in the BITE model with these feelings of guilt or unworthiness, it specifically talks about your family being deficient, you're not living up to your full potential, or your affiliations are unwise. As youth in the church, we would hear a lot of messages about only being around other members of the church or other people that were worthy. Here's a portion of a talk from Sharon G. Larson, second counselor in the Young Women General Presidency. Heather told us about a time she had been invited to a party with the popular people of the school. As she walked in the door, the music that was blasting through the house hit her spirit. She felt sick inside. Then friends started disappearing into darkened rooms. Heather said, "At the party, I soon realized I had to make a choice. Either these people or my standards. I couldn't have both. I knew I did not want the words I was hearing or the movie scenes to contaminate my thoughts, no matter how popular these people were." This is a very, very common sort of story that we would hear in church lessons, over the pulpit, during youth conferences. There was a lot of emphasis on choosing people who met your standards, and typically those people would be other Mormons. We are very much discouraged from going anywhere or doing anything that would repel the Spirit. So, I mean, going to a bar, going to a coffee shop, because Mormons aren't allowed to drink coffee, going to a club, going to somebody's house where there were rated R movies playing. There were all sorts of things that we were supposed to avoid, and typically there's certain activities you avoid, there's certain people you avoid because they do those activities. You could be shamed for your friend group, you could be shamed for the type of person you dated. There was even somebody in my ward that was shamed because she married a non-member. And this also applies to your own family. The current prophet of the Mormon Church, Russell M. Nelson, has made a couple of comments that I immediately thought of while I was making this video. Some erroneously believe that the resurrection of Jesus Christ provides a promise that all people will be with their loved ones after death. The Savior himself has made it abundantly clear that while his resurrection assures that every person who ever lived will indeed be resurrected and live forever, much more is required if we want to have the high privilege of exaltation. The time is coming when those who do not obey the Lord will be separated from those who do. Our safest insurance is to continue to be worthy of admission to his holy house. The greatest gift you could give the Lord is to keep yourself unspotted from the world, worthy to attend his holy house. There's that worthy word again. In the talks where he made these comments, he spoke about people who wanted to be with their loved ones forever, but basically they weren't going to be because they hadn't followed what the church had lined out for them. And several times he has told the members, like, you need to talk to your family, you need to make sure that your family are following all of these guidelines, all of these rules, so that they can go to heaven with you. Otherwise, you're going to be separated. And so that's what made me think of this particular point on the bite model of shaming you, even if your family and your loved ones that you're close to, that you want to be with forever in the afterlife, if they're not following our rules, they won't be. In other words, if your family is not following our standards, they are deficient. And of course, we cannot go without talking about the insane emphasis the church places on chastity. Prophet Spencer W. Kimball, your virtue is worth more than your life. Please, young folk, preserve your virtue even if you lose your lives. Also far-reaching is the effect of loss of chastity. Once given or taken or stolen, it can never be regained. Even in forced contact such as rape or incest, the injured one is greatly outraged. If she has not cooperated and contributed to the foul deed, she is, of course, in a more favorable position. There is no condemnation where there is no voluntary participation. It is better to die in defending one's virtue than to have lived having lost it without a struggle. And in a conference report, you young people, may I directly entreat you to be chaste. Please believe me when I say that chastity is worth more than life itself. This is the doctrine my parents taught me. It is truth. Better die chaste than live unchaste. The salvation of your very souls is concerned in this. Apostle Marion G. Romney, notwithstanding the fact that in this generation's corrupt permissiveness, the violation of the law of chastity is tolerated with impunity, under God's divine law, it is, as it has always been, a soul-destroying sin. Its self-executing penalty is spiritual death. And again, Marion G. Romney, in 3 minutes, I would be on my way to Australia to fill a mission. In that short interval, my father said to me, among other things, "My son, you are going a long way from home. Your mother and I and your brothers and sisters will be with you constantly in our thoughts and prayers. We shall rejoice with you in your successes and we shall sorrow with you in your disappointments. When you are released and return, we shall be glad to greet you and welcome you back into the family circle. But remember this, my son, we would rather come to this station and take your body off the train in a casket than to have you come home unclean, having lost your virtue." Elder Richard G. Scott, the victim must do all in his or her power to stop the abuse. Most often, the victim is innocent because of being disabled by fear or the power or authority of the offender. At some point in time, however, the Lord may prompt a victim to recognize a degree of responsibility for abuse. Prophet Heber J. Grant, there is no Latter-day Saint who would not rather bury a son or daughter than to have him or her lose his or her chastity, realizing that chastity is of more value than anything else in all the world. As a young woman, after I was assaulted by a worthy church member, I entirely doubted my worth based on these messages. It's one of the reasons for the little tagline on my videos. It's something I've had to unlearn after leaving the church. But in my opinion, as somebody who's very familiar with the church and lived through this, the church absolutely promotes feelings of guilt and unworthiness. Does this make the Mormon Church a cult? You tell me. Based on all the videos we've done, this is just another point in the bite model. I think the church absolutely hits the nail on the head with this one. Watch the other videos in the series, let me know what you think. Remember, a group just hitting one point on the bite model does not necessarily mean that group is a cult. You have to look at the bigger picture. And as a side note, I want you to know that several of these quotes about chastity are still up on the church's website to this day, and I absolutely think that they need to do better for their youth than this BS. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and special thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel. You guys are the best. An extra special thank you to Amy, Doug Davis, and NJ for supporting at the Demon tier on my Patreon. It means so much to me. Thank you guys. If you would like to support this channel and the work I do here, I would greatly appreciate that. There are links in the description. Thank you for being here, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!